welcome back to Night Owl Mogwai Talk, keeping you L on the latest Mogwai news, or at least the Mogwai news I want to talk about anyways, yada yada yada. Let's get on to episode 5 of Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. If you recall, when I first started this, you can go back and watch those right here. When I first started this journey, I made no commitment to be this far. I gave myself a parachute ripcord to pull if I got this far in, and it sucked, and it hasn't sucked, so here we are. Awesome. Anyways, yeah. Episode 5, Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. Okay, so episode 5 picks up pretty much where episode 4 left off. The converted gremlins have escaped from their magical prison cell and are up in the air vents. Our guy henchman number 2, who's played by Zach Galligan, who we figured out last week, they were keeping his name secret on like Wikipedia and IMDb and stuff. So last week was the first week we figured out who he is, and he had very little to say last week, and then this week they're giving him little bits and more to say. So I like to see that he's coming up. Good for him. Anyways, he's explaining how many gremlins have escaped to the boss, except that accounting is all wrong because the gremlins have found and fallen into one of them their indoor plumbing commodes you hear about. Fancy. Anyways, they start breeding like Mormons, and next thing you know, we got an army of them. Then we cut to Sam and Elle walking through the scary forest. It's actually called that. Good name. Sam's been reading out of one of Grandpa's magical handwritten journals that he keeps. I've been calling those the Gremlinomicon. He uses them to solve most of their problems. Here we're using it as a map to figure out how to find the ghost city, which will then be the key to unlocking the Valley of Jade. Classic fantasy gibberish. During all this, a bandit jumps out. He tells them, "Give me your money and everything you got, including your toothbrushes." Sam immediately hands over everything as the bandit says. Elle not only disarms the bandit, she has time to give a monologue about how bandits are rats. No criminal with any actual talent would need to scare people with something like a knife. Except Elle's thoughts on crime are rather irrelevant because this is all just a setup to see our bandit friend, Plot Point, get attacked by some sort of zombies from outside of the scary woods. The weird ancient Chinese zombie punches a hole straight into our guy Plot Point, and other zombies come running out of the woods as Plot Point stands up and is now one of them. A few minutes earlier, Sam had mentioned that Grandpa's advice was either to stab or run. Anything in between was useless. The kids freak out and they just start taking off. So when the zombies start cornering in on our heroes, they look up and they see the cabin that the witch from Pumpkinhead lives in. No, they just look up and they see this scary cabin up in the woods. This is your classic Night of the Living Dead thing, right? You know, if you're being attacked by zombies, you got to go get in a cabin that's easy to punch through the walls in. That's part of the whole experience. So Elle pulls out the knife and starts stabbing zombies, as Sam instructed her to do. But it doesn't work at all. They pop right back up. So Sam and Elle run up to the cabin. Elle grabs an axe, busts the door open, and we get some great Evil Dead type imagery. And then the creepy shark-toothed zombies chase them up to the door and start busting through the wood as Sam and Elle can't figure out what to do. So of course we go to commercial, but since we're on HBO, we don't have the commercials, and we cut straight to Riley Green's diesel yacht. This thing is currently being overrun by gremlins, as I stated at the beginning, but the captain of the ship is unaware of this apparently, because the main lead gremlin, Claw, sneaks up behind him through the air vent and straight murders him. Like, I'm not joking, like, oh, he moited him. No, I mean like he murders him. We see his corpse laying on the ground as Claw picks up the captain hat, and he's the captain now. So, within the last 3 minutes, we've seen Elle repeatedly stab a zombie in the chest over and over again with an old rusty fishing knife. And now we've seen a captain murdered by this gremlin, choked to death. So this is TV PG, but maybe too scary for kids. I mean, I know most people's kids are cool and there is no blood and gore, but there's a lot of, stabbing and axes and just whoa, right? So, something to think about. Although, personally, I'm digging it, but I'm grown. I'm not TV PG. Well, grown age. So now that Claw is in charge of Riley Green's Jay-Z Big Pimpin' Yacht, we cut to the ancient Chinese zombies attacking the wooden cabin hidden in the middle of the scary forest. Copyright, trademark. Elle, Gizmo, and Sam are holding back the door, and we get the cool light beams banging through like in Frailty or Evil Dead. And then when the zombies start winning and overcoming them, they start backing away, and Elle falls through a hole in the floor. Sam and Gizmo see her, and they see she's okay, so they jump down there to be with her. Here we meet Radish. Radish is a kid who's been hiding from the zombies and living down in this basement, and there's a bunch of carrots everywhere, so clearly that's what he's been living on. And he's not quite right in the head. We can tell that after we've known him for 2 seconds. He introduces us to his best friend, a radish named Theodore. So the boy is Radish and the radish is Theodore. Got it? The radish is obviously like a Wilson. So it takes Elle, Sam, and Gizmo approximately 2 seconds to figure out that Radish is off his rocker. But what are they going to do? It's better than the zombies. The zombies overcome the cabin's virtually non-existent defense system and burst through the door. Suddenly the zombies overtake the cabin one hop at a time. One of the things that makes these zombies slightly different from all other zombies we've seen in the past is they jump one hop at a time, kind of like a bunny rabbit or Cubert. So it gives them a little bit of an interesting flair to who they are are and what they're doing. The problem is the cabin's floorboards are made of old rickety wood, and a bunch of people jumping around on it are getting ready to break through and end up downstairs with Sam, Elle, Radish, and Theodore. So since a bunch of tension have built, we gotta cut away. That's the rule of the show. We see Mom and Pop Wing, who, when we last left them in episode 4, had convinced Riley Green to let them out to do medical work on henchman number 1 who'd been bitten by a Mogwai. So the henchmen were easy to escape from, much like stormtroopers, easily fooled. So we see Ma and Pa Wing skulking around the ship trying to figure out a way to escape, and they end up in Riley's office. Ma Wing explains to Pa Wing, "We need to fight magic with magic. See what you can find in here that we can turn into a weapon." While they're doing that, a Mogwai hand reaches down and puts a record needle onto a piece of vinyl that starts playing a slow, eerie song in an empty room. And if you've watched any horror movie in the last 20 years, you know that is terrifying. With a bunch of escalating tension, we cut back to Sam, Elle, and Radish. Radish says that these zombies are called the, air quotes, Shang-Chi. Sorry if I massacred that pronunciation. I've been killing them this whole time. Anyway, so the Shang-Chi. Sam says that when he was little, Grandpa explained to him what the Shang-Chi were. And they cut to a backstory of Grandpa doing one of his little monologues of the monsters of the week. This monster of the week so far is by far the scariest. I'd like to point that out again. Scary, scary, scary. So anyways, Grandpa explains that the Shang-Chi were derived from a bureaucrat who could not think for himself. And when that bureaucrat eventually died, he didn't know where to go after he was dead. So his soul just lived in his body and he became undead. So in the deepest, darkest woods, sometimes a Shang-Chi will live out there, mindless, with no instruction, nowhere to go. So Grandpa explains the way you defeat a Shang-Chi bureaucrat is to show bravery, something they don't have. So you have to walk up to them and put this talisman, which looks like a piece of paper or a receipt, and stick it on their forehead, and that freezes them dead. So the zombies start pounding at the floor, and eventually they break through, and one of them grabs Theodore and runs off. Radish isn't having that for 1 second. He goes bolting out a secret door, and Sam starts writing out talisman. So Elle looks outside, and she sees that Radish is about to be devoured by the zombies that he's out there trying to defeat to get his beloved Theodore back. And Sam thinks about the words that he needs to show bravery. And Sam gets his brave face on, and he goes running out there meaning business. So of course, since the dramatic tension, we cut back to Ma and Pa Wing in the boat. They have the full-on Gremlins scary scene experience. So we just see things getting knocked over, and we know it's there, but we can't see it. Once again, actually scary. So, you know, this is good stuff. This is the horror I've been waiting for. It's even by far the scariest episode so far. So Pa Wing grabs some medicine off a shelf and slams it onto one of the gremlins, and of course it's acid, and we see him melt right before our eyes. Another one they grab and throw up into a ceiling fan, and he gets busted up into a bunch of pieces. Ma Wing then grabs what appears to be a magic wand off a shelf, points it at a gremlin, and blammo! We see a light bolt come out and zap a gremlin into a million pieces. Straight goo, dog. Then we cut back to Radish in the woods about to be devoured by our pseudo-zombies. And Sam and Elle pop out and distract the zombies and get them to start heading back towards them. In the ruckus and the confusion, Radish and Theodore are reunited, and oh, it's so good. Sam displays the bravery he's supposed to display, and he puts the talisman on one of the bureaucrats' foreheads and zzz, freezes him cold. Then a monster pops out behind Elle, and she puts an axe in his chest, over and over and over again. TVPG. But that does nothing, so when he pops back up, Sam has to run over and put a talisman on his forehead to freeze him. Then as the bureaucrat zombies start closing in around Sam and Elle, Radish and Gizmo begin to throw the carrots that are hanging up everywhere at them. Okay, so let's take a quick pause here. We've got Sam, who can defeat the zombies, but it takes a second for him to regenerate his weapon that defeats them. We've got Gizmo and Radish, who are able to stun the zombies, but just for a second. And then we also have Elle, who can stun the zombies for almost a minute or so, except she can't kill them. Sam has to freeze them. Between all that and the way the zombies jump one little space at a time like Q*bert, this all feels like a future video game for like a tablet or your phone, so keep an eye out for that. So now that we've got our fierce foursome to fight the video game zombies and have an adventure, Sam begins writing out talisman, the other members of the crew begin stunning zombies, and everybody has their hero moment fighting off the bureaucratic Shang-Chi. And after we get a big montage where everybody's working together, all the zombies are defeated, we see our heroes exhausted, and Radish thanks them for their help getting his boy Theodore back, and Sam and Elle give each other a look like, hey, are you thinking what I'm thinking? And they are. They invite Radish to come with them on their journey. Radish gratefully accepts, and before he even has a chance to pack, they're already at the outskirts of Ghost City. So since the show's wrapping up, we have to cut back to a button scene, and we see Riley Green's yacht completely overrun by the Gremlins. They make poor henchman number 1, Sebastian, walk the plank. Ma and Pa Wing are on their way trying to escape, and Riley Green pops out. Ma Wing takes out the magic wand, and she points it at him, and bzzz, and Riley lets him know the wand of sunlight might be a weapon to a gremlin, but to me it's nothing more than a glorified reading lamp. He does some sort of weird two-fingered fist punch judo magical kung fu move and freezes Ma and Pa Wing in their place, straight Matrix style. He then takes the magical wand of sunlight and begins zapping gremlins like a laser gun, restoring law and order to his gas-guzzling, diesel-polluting yacht. After a bunch of the gremlins have been zapped into goo, Riley announces, "I would like to parley with your leader." Claw comes out with the captain hat on, and Riley points out that since the Mogwai have thrown most of his crew and captain overboard, he needs someone to shepherd him to the Valley of Jade. The Gremlins, however, need the boat. They want to hit the open seas and conquer the world. So the two of them have an agreement. By the way, when we saw the Mogwai throwing the henchmen overboard, one of the things got thrown overboard was a jar with a little gremlin inside it. That's the gremlin left over from when Riley tried to swallow one whole to become immortal, and then he vomited it back up. So that gremlin is essentially hot gremlin vomit in a jar. So, good name for your punk band. So now that Riley and Claw have worked out this agreement, we see the ship sail off into the night, and we cut back and we see my boy Hot Gremlin Vomit floating in a jar in the ocean. The end. Okay, so episode 5 was good. I liked it. It had a lot of tension, a lot of excitement. No point in trying to go over it more. I give this one an enjoyable. Let's have a quick talk about Radish, shall we? I just don't see how a character that you introduce on episode 5 of a 10-episode series is anyone that has staying power. In my opinion, Radish is clearly some sort of plot device. He'll probably, I would guess he'll end up stealing the Mogwai. And basically, I think either he's going to be a thief and turn into a bad guy, or else he's going to be a martyr. Most likely both. I think he'll probably end up stealing the Mogwai, and then something will happen, and he'll have a chance to sacrifice himself so everybody else can get away. Because he's got no purpose. There's no reason for him to be there other than you need 4 characters for a potential video game, and the symmetry of the 3 kids and Gremlin or Mogwai all walking on down a road looks very Wizard of Oz-ish. Speaking of Wizard, this is the most like Harry Potter heavy episode. They're really moving now into that territory. It was a lot of Star Wars, Indiana Jones stuff up front. Now we're moving more into like Wizard works, I see. So anyways, that was episode 5. Let me know what you think if you're following along with me, or if you're watching this anyways, or yada yada yada. Feel free to hit the like, feel free to subscribe, feel free. It's a free channel, free to do whatever you want. Anyways, free to check out these videos right here. Bam! Segue. You have a good one, and I will catch you later.